In our paper, Barriers to Expertise in Citizen Science Games, we performed a qualitative study to understand a type of citizen science that requires expertise and why many people struggle to contribute to it. Citizen science games are games available to the public where playing them contributes in some way to scientific research. Citizen science games are great because they produce scientific data, provide public access to scientific and societal challenges, and create opportunities for public STEM education. In this study, we focus on a specific kind of citizen science game called Expertise-centric citizen science games, or ECCSGs. In these games, the benefits of CSGs are increased because not only are participants learning about and contributing to the science, they're also gaining a unique expertise complementary to the researcher's knowledge. But this comes with the drawback that participation requires expertise. One has to become an expert to participate and contribute, and making someone an expert in something is very, very difficult. In this study, we try to answer two research questions. What is the path to expertise in expertise-centric citizen science games, and what are the major barriers along that path? Before we could answer these questions, we needed to define what makes something an ECCSG. Based on previous work and what current ECCSGs are doing, we came up with 7 criteria. An ECCSG is a game or gamified application that requires and develops expertise in its participants, and makes citizen science contributions, and solves a novel problem, and it produces this expertise intentionally and concretely in a way that is visible and permanent, like having a wiki. And the expertise itself is novel. The participants learn something that no one else in the world knows. Given prior research on citizen science games, we already know a few things about the player experience. First, having an intrinsic motivation to participate leads to increased participation. The activity needs to be inherently engaging. Second, we need better tutorials. Multiple papers have discussed player frustrations with the learning curves and lack of information available in the onboarding of citizen science games. And third, citizen science games suffer from a lack of accessibility and inclusion. Participation is biased toward older males coming from Western-educated, industrialized, rich democratic countries, following the typical biases found in psychology research. Participants who already have access to science and science capital are the ones contributing to scientific research and development. There are several reasons why, and one major factor is the time and cognitive effort required to participate. This work aims to improve accessibility by studying how we can lower the skill barrier to participation. Based on our definition of ECCSGs, we chose 3 case studies of Foldit, Eyewire, and Eterna. Foldit is a 3D puzzle game where players attempt to fold a protein into a better shape in order to get a high score, through a combination of actions like shaking, pulling, and running programmable scripts to combine these actions. Eterna has a similar scientific goal, but is a 2D puzzle game about mutating base pairs. Lastly, Eyewire is a 3D puzzle where players attempt to color in a 3D model of a neuron based on data from 2D slices. We interviewed 16 players, 12 from Foldit, 3 from Eterna, and 1 from Eyewire. The interviews were semi-structured and each took about an hour. We asked players about their play experience and game skills, and analyzed the results using reflexive thematic analysis. The analysis occurred over 5 iterative rounds and focused on patterns identifiable across all games, despite our skew toward Foldit players. This produced 4 themes. The path to expertise is social and exploratory. As for barriers, we found 3. The first barrier is a lack of instruction. Second, a lack of polish creates game design barriers. And third, there are sociocultural barriers because of a lack of open communication. We summarize our findings in this graphic. The path to expertise is a cycle of exploratory learning and social learning. But the onboarding of this cycle is blocked by missing instruction. If one can get past that barrier, their exploratory learning is hindered by missing polish. Past that, their social learning is hindered by missing communication. For the remainder of this talk, I'm going to focus on just the communication barrier, but you can find details of each theme in our paper. When we began our analysis, the first sign that something was blocking communication was a lack of community content. And the community content that did exist was perceived as low quality compared to community content from other games. In Minecraft, you learn from the wiki or you watch a YouTuber play it, but Foldit doesn't have content creators in the same way. What Minecraft and ECCSGs like Foldit share is a model of cognitive apprenticeship to learn the game. Using the language of G's discourse theory, we can say that content creators are providing portals into the affinity space of the game. But why is it that ECCSGs don't have content creators? At first, it seems like it's just because the community is smaller, but participants told us otherwise. "I'm not comfortable showing how I'm playing," says P11. "And I would not be comfortable trying to edit the wiki. These guys know way too much." This is coming from someone who has been playing for years and still feels inadequate. We saw this not only in Foldit, but all 3 games. Players were afraid of stepping on toes. We thematized player responses into 2 distinct effects. A low knowledge self-efficacy was manifesting as a sense of inadequacy, and a low sense of belonging was manifesting as a fear of how community content would be received by the wider community. But the lack of community content was not just influenced by these 2 factors. Developers also had a role in gatekeeping community content. Players expressed that developers were dismissing or disagreeing with their wiki contributions. In prior literature, Jeanette et al. Described how citizen scientists learn socially through their MLC model of motivation, learning, and creativity. They describe it as a virtuous circle, where doing the task leads to sharing with the community, which leads to more confidence and competence to repeat this cycle. But between the developer's gatekeeping and the player's lack of knowledge, self-efficacy, and sense of belonging, this cycle is broken. Players are hindered from forming community identities and sharing back to the community, which then makes it harder for new players to join the community because there isn't much to learn from. Although I don't have time to go through the rest as thoroughly, we also identified scientific communication as a barrier to social learning. Players said that the scientists use inaccessible jargon, and that the news updates from the scientists are too infrequent. These 2 factors combined make it difficult for the players to translate their efforts in the game to what progress is happening in the lab, and this decreases their motivation for further participation. For every finding in our results, we also provide actionable takeaways. I'll briefly cover what can be done to address the barrier of communication. Teach players how to record and share their gameplay or how to edit wikis. Give the social support they need to believe that they have ideas worth sharing. Creating community content doesn't have to be making guides or editing wikis. Encourage fan art, social events, and other ways to engage with the community that have a lower knowledge barrier to entry. Explicitly address, discourage, and prevent gatekeeping. Lastly, teach the players what science is actually happening and why their individual contributions matter through clear and regular communication, and collaborate with communicators who can help translate jargon into public-facing communications. This work could not have been done without my advisor Seth, the teams from Foldit, Eterna, and Eyewire, all of my participants, and the helpful input from our reviewers. And thank you for listening.